For me, it was another step. It was an evolution from what we did last summer, and I wanted to show a balance between the fantasy and the reality of women, how I feel women want to look next fall. And I felt that there was, in one hand, a quite grown-up feeling in fashion at the moment, but I also wanted to bring in a child's fantasy, looking through a children's eyes, this feeling of kaleidoscope, feeling of jewels on the clothes, and a little bit of fun mixed with luxury. As a woman, when you're designing, you can evolve also through the eyes of the way you want to be perceived and the way you want to dress as a woman, as well as a designer. So I felt that I personally feel there is a change maybe in fashion. I feel that there should be a lightness in fashion, a femininity should be more important again. And at the same time I feel that the modernity has to balance with those. So for me it's about fragility and femininity with a clean modernity. I was interested in continuing the feeling of luxury, but always dealing with very luxurious materials, luxury as a concept, almost couture-like finishes and details, but to keep it fresh. And I was strangely looking at video games, that whole sort of feeling of the 80s, early 90s, which is very far from the craftsman, you know, and craftsman qualities in here in Paris. And somehow I felt there was something quite interesting in that whole matrix approach of the games and how we could bring that into very fine lace and almost jewellery effect on the clothes. I sketch and I work with materials simultaneously. At the same time I project from the beginning of where I feel that as a woman I want to be next year, next season, what I want to wear, what I feel women want to wear. And so in one hand I'm working backwards from there, and in the other hand, on a practical level, I'm working forwards. We don't really do any of the development outside the atelier. All the development comes from the atelier. So we're working on our own fabrics, on our own finishings, we're taking maybe quite traditional fabrics and we're constantly reworking. Obviously it wasn't from where I came from, it wasn't something that I was around where I grew up. So it was very much aspirational at the beginning, and from St. Martin's reality became more, it became more real, that there was actually a career there. So St. Martin's was, I suppose, a stepping stone into the industry, and from London then to Paris. After St. Martin's I was working with a Japanese designer, and I had seen very small reactive approaches to fashion coming from St. Martin's. I had seen one attitude, and then I had been in Vuitton where I saw a completely different response. And I think I weighed them both up and decided that it was probably feasible at that time to do something. In a way, you have to plan later, but I think at the beginning you have to be quite spontaneous and just try it. Eden differs primarily in the fact that a lot of the production is focusing on Africa, so that in itself affects the product, affects the design process. Apart from the fact that the customer is probably slightly younger, maybe due to budget, it's a less expensive product. It's aimed at the contemporary market as opposed to the designer, so there are differences, but the main difference for me is the fact that we look at Africa, and Africa is a very different production perspective than here in Paris.